So you're looking to get your first win in Hades 2. I've got a few tips for you to help you win that first run, starting with I'd recommend taking your time and using the space of areas and the range of weapons to your advantage. So what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, in Hades 2, you'll notice areas are a lot larger than they were in the first one. This boss fight, a perfect example of that. You've got a lot more space to move, to step away, dodge attacks, but as well the weapons really lean into that. So in Hades 1, you had weapons like the fists, which would force you to be up close pretty much all the time, no matter what. And then something like the bow or the gun that lets you always stay at a distance. Whereas things are a little bit more mixed here in Hades 2. So something like these, daggers, you've still got the ranged attack where you can throw, and then you can get up close and get in for an attack. The Omega attacks and casts a lot of times give you a lot of distance, a lot of reach. So I recommend try to kite, try to stay away, and you don't have a time limit, so just be patient, let the enemies come to you. It's also going to help while you're learning attack patterns. I'm sure as all of us get better at the game, you can be up close and dodging attacks super easily in the future, but while you're still learning, it's just easier to learn and see the windups while you're at a distance. So really think you should lean into that. Make sure your builds are going with that in mind, that there should be some sort of ranged option, a bit of kiting. Second tip, and I think this is really good for people who are struggling to make it very far in their run, is favor resource collection. So something else about Hades 2, you'll really notice that there's an emphasis on longevity in the game. There's a lot to upgrade, multiple paths. I mean, there just seems to be a lot that they want you to be able to do and not win right away. The Eris debuff, that's a perfect example of being like, hey, we don't want you to win too fast. So what can you do to favor the resource collection in this game? Shops are one option. I thought, hey, I'm hot shit. My record was 51 heat in Hades 1. Obviously, I just want upgrades, I want boons, things like that in the shop, because I'm going to win this run, but didn't exactly happen in some of those early runs. So instead, just spend your money on any resources that are in the shop. If you've got a room selection, there's, maybe an upgrade or something like that versus, just resources that are going to help you progress. Go ahead and take the resources. I'd even say for people who are really struggling, go ahead and equip Poseidon's Trinket and try to target one of those abilities that helps you generate extra resources just to help make your runs a bit easier. Definitely seems like something you wouldn't do in the first Hades, but it's going to pay off. There's a lot of upgrades to do down the road. It's going to pay off for those, and it's definitely going to help you get your first win. I'd also say, I forget what the tool's called, but there's a tool that helps you gather Psyche from the ghosts. I think that is the tool that you're really going to want to be running for the majority of the early part of your playing. Third thing, if we're talking builds and boons, where do we want to go? I don't think we're really at a time where I can say, this build is really good. There's a few resources out there that are decent. I think they offer some insight into good builds, but there's a handful of boons that are just kind of good across everything. And everyone's getting up to speed on what exactly is going to be the best. I think those are the things that you should be focusing on. The first of those being Hephaestus. So Hephaestus, with the attack and special, you're able to just hit once, right? You hit once and deal a ton of damage. It goes on to a cooldown, so the special's like 20 seconds. I think it's 8 seconds on the attack. But you'll notice, say, in this run right here that I've got up, I've got the Hephaestus special on the daggers, And most of my damage is actually going to be through the attack. But it's really easy to just throw out one of those daggers, deal 400 damage. I think I've even got that volcanic upgrade that's going to deal the delayed 300 as well. So it's like 700 damage for pressing the Y button one time every like 20-ish seconds. Kind of going back to using space and range. This is another thing that's really, really easy to do with Hephaestus. You could go as far as to put it on both the attack and the special. I've done that with even the axe, and you can run in, just get one hit, run out, be patient, wait for those cooldowns to come back, run back in. Very, very, very effective, that kind of hit and run strategy. So I'd recommend getting it on at least one of your attacks, preferably something that's ranged and a bit safer, just to get you that sort of free damage. Another one that I think is very good to target is move speed and sprint speed. You can get the sprint speed on the tarot card. That's probably the easiest way. I know Chaos will sometimes offer move and sprint speed. And there's a few boons out there. I think Apollo Sprint as well. Going to make you go a bit faster. But really, just if you see something there, I underrated it when I first started playing, and then as soon as I tried it, it was like, wow. The number of attacks I can dodge now, so much higher. There's a lot of attacks that do sort of like a sweeping motion. You're able to then run around it, get in behind, get some attacks in there. So it's going to allow you to deal more damage. It's going to allow you to get through or dodge a lot of attacks that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. A great example of that, Cerberus's Hand Slam. It's got that kind of delayed explosion afterwards. Just having a bit of extra move speed there, you can pretty much just walk out of it if you've got enough. It's very, very, very helpful. Definitely think it's worth getting and upgrading that tarot card as well. And then finally, there's the Hex from Selene that lets you heal. Doesn't matter what build you're running at all. You get 25 HP healed every time you use it, and you get 3 uses that regenerate each time you use a well. Plus, you can upgrade it. I think I've got it as high as 5 uses each time. You can upgrade the amount that you get. It's crazy powerful if you end up getting it. Yeah, like I said, on literally any weapon, any build you're going, just extra HP, it's great. So if you see it offered in one of the rooms, I advise go there and hope to actually hit it. Another tip, probably the smallest tip that I'll offer here, but I actually think this is very, very useful, and I haven't seen people doing it. Remapping the cast from B to the left trigger. Now, obviously, this is talking controllers. I don't know what it's like on the mouse and keyboard. It's probably fine the way that it is. But you'll notice a lot of times when you're dashing, you're attacking, it's hard just to get your thumb over to B to weave in that cast. And casts are very, very strong in Hades 2, a lot stronger than they were in Hades 1, and a lot easier to weave into your combos. Whereas if you have it on the left trigger, you can just be dashing, hit the left trigger, kind of in the middle of an attack combo, drop something down. I've found it's very, very useful for that. There's also one particular case where I just think it's necessary. That's if you're using the maracas, right? The twin wand umbral flames. If you're holding down the attack button and you get up to that omega attack, which is really what you're trying to do, you can actually use the cast without breaking the omega attack. So if you have it remapped to left trigger, obviously a lot easier to do that since you are forced to hold down the X button while you're attacking. So something to experiment with, but I really do think it's useful. Probably worth getting used to sooner rather than later. This is something I don't see a lot of people do. So next tip here is to watch a fight. Usually it's a boss fight that you might be stuck on. So how can you do that? Obviously, there's tons of people streaming, making YouTube content. That's one way to do it. But another way to do it is potentially record yourself. If you don't want spoilers, you don't want to watch other people, you want it to be your run, just record yourself in a boss fight and take a look after. Because the way that roguelites tend to do their progression, what you're actually doing is you're going from start to some point where you hit a wall, you die, and then hopefully you get a little bit further because now you've seen what's there, you're used to it, you're a little bit better at the game. But let's say you're getting all the way to like the very last fight, right? You're getting to Kronos, okay, and then you immediately die. Well, it might take an hour for you to get all the way back just to get a little bit more practice. And for the most part, what you really want is just to understand what does his attack patterns look like, right? What is his wind up? How does he telegraph what he's doing? And it's really hard to get that if you've got to go through a full hour. Sometimes very frustrating to go through that full hour. Maybe you don't even have that much HP when you get to him at the end of it. But if you can just sit there on a video that's recorded, go back, watch his windups, listen for sound cues, things like that. It's a very, very helpful way to actually learn the fight without having to invest that hour to go back. For some people, I know that defeats the fun, but I do think that this is something that can be really, really useful for people who are getting frustrated with having to replay that same segment again and again and just being stuck on one particular part. But now I've just got one final tip, a bit of a spoiler. So if you're not interested, just duck out here. That's it. But I'm going to show you something from the final fight that I certainly wish that I knew going into it. And that is the very first attack of Kronos' second phase. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. But this is what happens the second you start the second phase of the Kronos fight. He's going to do this kind of all-target, right? You see the whole screen is getting lit up like this, and you have to run to one of these circles on the edge to stay safe. If you're not in there, that explosion right there, that will just kill you. It's like 999 damage. It sucks. Now, if you're like me, and you're playing this for, I think it was the first time, maybe it was the second time I got in here. I had the axe. I thought, great, let's go attack Kronos. I would like to kill him. It took me a second to understand that there's some attack that I got to run from. He kills you in one shot. My whole health bar is gone. I lose the run, and then once again, I got to spend about an hour getting back to Kronos just to be able to learn the attack patterns and practice the fight, that kind of thing again. That sucked. I don't like that mechanic very much. One-hit kills are kind of lame. I found it very, very frustrating, so just kind of wanted to give the heads up, maybe for people who are making it to the first phase of Kronos. You're excited to get to that second phase. Hopefully it just saves you a tiny bit of frustration if you're curious how he starts that. And you don't get one shot. You get an actual chance to play the fight out and learn a few things. So hopefully those tips help. I think there's a lot of really good stuff in there. If you take that to heart, give it some practice, I'm sure you'll be able to win your first Hades 2 run in no time.